I'm frightened for our country. So I figure if my vote counts, which I've been told all my life, then I need to do this.
You know, I just don't want to see our country so divided or so hateful.
I think it's important to get out here and vote, use my civic duty.
Those are just a few of the nearly 65 million Americans who have already cast their vote. Harris and Trump now have 4 days to make their case to those who haven't. I'm Stephen Romo in for Gadi Schwartz, and this is Stay Tuned Now. That's right. After all of the buildup, just 4 days until Election Day. And both campaigns are swinging through the Midwest today with their paths quite literally crossing there at times. My colleague Garrett Haake pointing out earlier that the Trump and Walz planes were at one point just about 200 yards apart on the tarmac in Detroit. The final hours of campaigning taking Donald Trump to Michigan and Wisconsin today. Meanwhile, Vice President Harris is focusing just on Wisconsin. But overshadowing Trump's stop yet again are the controversial comments made the day before. This time, the violent remarks about former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, one of the first high-profile Republicans to break from her party and endorse Harris.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face.
Now, Harris was quick to call Trump's comments disqualifying.
He has increased his violent rhetoric, Donald Trump has, about political opponents, and in great detail, suggested rifles should be trained on former Representative Liz Cheney. Anyone who wants to be president of the United States who uses that kind of violent rhetoric is clearly disqualified and unqualified to be president.
Now, we'll tell you how Cheney herself responded in just a moment. But as for Trump, he spent part of the day trying to somewhat defend his comments, saying he was just trying to call Cheney a war hawk.
I said if you ever gave her a rifle and let her do the fighting, if you ever do that, she wouldn't be doing too well, I will tell you right now. But she's a war hawk. She wants to go kill people unnecessarily. And if she had to do it herself and she had to face the consequences of battle, she wouldn't be doing it.
Let's bring in NBC News campaign embed Jake Traylor from Milwaukee. Jake, thanks for being here. So Trump is unsurprisingly not taking those words back, but he is putting up a bit of a defense there. What is he trying to say?
Yeah, Steve, I've been covering the Donald Trump campaign for the better part of 2 years, and something I've never seen the former president do when he's made an offensive comment or one that's gotten a lot of backlash from both sides of the aisle. I've never seen the former president walk back or apologize for those comments. And what he's done today is really fallen in line with that. Instead of making an apology or maybe clarifying that context, he's really doubled down, saying that he was not threatening or making a personal attack on the former Congresswoman. Instead, he says that he was being insistent about saying she would have a different framework if she had served in war before. Now, the Trump campaign themselves, they've had a bit of a different take on this. Throughout the day, my phone has been really blown up with different messages from different Trump campaign folks who have worked to clarify and provide context to the former president's statements. That's not exactly what we're seeing from him. And since Liz Cheney served on the January 6th committee that looked into the efforts of the former president on J6. And then since she's endorsed Kamala Harris now on the campaign trail with her, we've seen this contentious relationship between former president and Liz Cheney. And obviously last night that was on the mind of Trump as well.
Yeah, certainly. And walking back is something we don't see happening. Maybe providing context, but that is not the same thing. It's sort of taking those words back, Jake. And there are also reports about the Arizona Attorney General looking into these comments that Trump made as potential criminal conduct. What do we know about that?
That's exactly right. Today, the attorney, the AG in Arizona, said that they had launched some of their staff to do an investigation into if what Donald Trump said last night was potentially a death threat. That's obviously an intense allegation and investigation taking place. The AG furthered that this close to an election, anything that could disrupt the protocol that's going to take place at the voting booths is not ideal, and it's a potential threat. Now, I will say, in terms of criminality or legality of the situation. We're not going to see this impede the former president on his run in this final few days before the election. But certainly any undecided voters that might be left out there, especially in the critical battleground state of Arizona, that might be affected by these comments and by an open investigation into the former president, that's certainly noteworthy.
Yeah, it certainly is with those 4 days left. And there are other Trump headlines to talk about too, Jake, like him strongly supporting and backing RFK Jr. in these last 24 hours, including those anti-vaccine claims. What's he saying there?
Yeah, so ever since we saw RFK Jr. Drop out of the presidential race and endorse the former president, there's been a lot of just interest in what exactly RFK Jr.'s role would be in an administration, the way that he's impacting the campaign. In various ways, we've already seen the way that he has made an impact. Make America healthy again is something that Donald Trump started incorporating into his message whenever RFK Jr. Came on board. Recently, as of this past Monday, RFK Jr. said that Trump promised him specific administration roles in regards to health and safety. Last night, Donald Trump himself saying that ultimately he would let RFK Jr. do whatever he wants, specifically with vaccines. Now, we know that RFK Jr. has a wide history of being anti-vaccine. The former president has not specifically made that claim himself, but welcoming in that type of rhetoric obviously lends its hand to there being some type of future relationship with RFK Jr. in that administration. Garrett Hake got the chance to ask Trump about his comment that he made yesterday. Take a quick listen to that.
You're comfortable with his views on vaccines, Mr. President?
We'll be talking about a lot of things, but he's going to have a big role in healthcare, a very big role.
Is it HHS maybe?
He knows it better than anybody. He's got some views that I happen to agree with very strongly, and I have for a long time. I mean, for years, you and I would agree. We'll be seeing it as a...
What about his views on vaccines?
Now, today, RFK Jr. has been on the Trump plane. He just actually spoke at a Donald Trump event. We're going to see the former president here a bit later, and I wouldn't be too surprised if we saw RFK Jr. take the stage before him, Steve.
All right, we'll be watching Jake Traylor in Milwaukee. Jake, thank you. And let's bring in NBC's Aaron Gilchrist. He's only about 7 miles down the road with the Harris campaign. Aaron, so Vice President Harris pushing back on Trump's comments about Liz Cheney last night. We heard that a bit earlier, but what are we hearing from Liz Cheney herself?
Well, Stephen, Liz Cheney actually responded first to what she heard from former President Trump last night. She didn't do that on camera, but she did do it on social media. We can show you part of the statement that she put out in the hours after those comments were made by former President Trump in Arizona. You see here, she says, "This is how dictators destroy free nations. They threaten those who speak against them with death. We cannot entrust our country and our freedom to a petty, vindictive, cruel, unstable man who wants to be a tyrant." And then she finished with the hashtags, "Women will not be silenced," and "Vote Kamala." We know that the Harris campaign was quick to comment on this as well. Early this morning, stepping out and saying that former President Trump was being unpresidential in these comments, saying that he's growing more extreme by the day as we get close to Election Day, and citing this as another reason, you heard the Vice President reference it as well, citing it as another reason as to why Donald Trump should not be elected president again and shouldn't be near the Oval Office, as the Vice President often says, Stephen.
And we'll see if that message resonates. Hey, Aaron, talk to us about the rally where you are right now and how the Harris campaign is hoping to close out these last 4 days.
Well, I can tell you there are thousands of people in this exposition center here on the fairgrounds just outside Milwaukee, and this is a rally and a concert that should be getting underway any minute here now. And the Harris campaign has said that it's organized these concerts and rallies, this one in particular, trying to mobilize young voters and trying to mobilize the voters that they describe as non-traditional voters. And so we're going to see several performances here. Glorilla, MC Lyte expected to perform. Cardi B is expected to give remarks here, as well as Keegan-Michael Key, the comedian. And these are all people that the Harris campaign has said have access to a lot of eyeballs. A lot of people follow them on social media and do want to hear what they have to say. And so the hope is that they will have a message for the voting group that the Harris campaign still wants to get to, those few undecided voters or voters who may not be activated to actually go out and vote yet, hoping their message will get through to them. And then she's going to take the stage here and try to close the deal and try to convince people as to why she's the candidate they should vote for. Before, Stephen, she goes on to Georgia and North Carolina tomorrow, Michigan on Sunday, wrapping up her campaigning in Pennsylvania. All of these key battleground states, many of them must-win states for Vice President Harris, Stephen.
Certainly not taking any time off this weekend. All right, Aaron Gilchrist, thank you so much. And even as we're in this home stretch to Election Day, tens of millions have already cast their ballots across the country. In battleground Arizona, any path to victory for Democrats involves winning over and turning out anti-Trump Republicans. You can think of those so-called McCain Republicans in Maricopa County's affluent suburbs. Those supporters of the late Senator John McCain helped propel President Biden to victory in 2020. Republicans took the county in 2016 and 2012. Today is the last day of early voting in Arizona, and so far, almost 2 million people have cast their ballots there. Liz Schwartz is outside of an early voting center in Scottsdale, Arizona, for us with more. Liz?
Well, hey, Stephen, I mean, this is truly a beast of a ballot here in Arizona, the longest it's been in some 15 years. There's on average 79 contests on the ballot that people have to go through. And because of that, it's taking longer to fill out. And we're seeing in return all of these long lines here, especially at this particular polling location in Scottsdale in Maricopa County. Folks here telling us they did not expect to be waiting this long to go in and vote in person. Now, we are in Scottsdale, which is an area that leans Republican. It has a lot of those so-called McCain Republicans, some of whom voted for Biden in 2020, helped him win Arizona, and Democrats are hoping they can win over many of those same voters. In fact, on the ballot is an abortion initiative that Democrats are hoping will help boost their turnout. But I have to say that there's been a big ground game push as well from Republicans here. And I'm here in the parking lot on the way in. There's volunteers with the GOP who are giving out this conservative voter guide, telling their voters how to vote and help them wade through the long ballot. Here's what some of the voters had to say about these long lines. Some okay with it, others not so much. Did you expect such a long line?
Not particularly, but again, it's okay that there's a long line. I'll wait however long it takes.
How long did it take to fill out that ballot? It's very long.
2 minutes.
Yeah, it took us 2 minutes. We prepared beforehand and kind of knew what we were voting yes and no on.
They moved it into a tiny room so they can't get more voting booths and more employees, knowing that the line will build, knowing that people won't be able to remain and sit through this long line to get to vote.
And that gentleman there is an example of a lot of the rampant skepticism that still exists here in Maricopa County among Republicans about the election voting process that lingers from 4 years ago. That man said that by seeing these long lines here, he believed it was a sign of some kind of voter suppression. There's no evidence of that, but it's just a reminder as we head into Tuesday, if we continue to see these long lines, if that does delay then getting results on Tuesday night and the days to come, that could change people's or impact people's perception of the election process in a place where there's still a lot of skepticism among Republicans. Stephen.
All right, Liz Schwartz reporting for us. Liz, thanks. And we have some breaking news for you tonight out of the Supreme Court. It will allow voters in Pennsylvania who sent mail-in ballots that were flagged as defective to now vote in person. This is seen as a loss for Republicans who asked the High Court to put on hold a state Supreme Court ruling from just last week. That ruling found ballots lacking secrecy envelopes are void. But stay tuned there because we could see more litigation for this in the coming days. Meanwhile, election workers around the country are getting ready for the big day. And this year, they are not just focused on making the vote run smoothly. There are growing concerns about election officials' safety after some of them have been swatted. So what exactly does that mean and how could that affect them? NBC's Yasmin Vasugian explains.
A man called police in a local Missouri town saying someone there had shot and killed his wife and children. He gave the address and police responded to the call. The hitch? It was the home of Missouri Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, and it was all a sham.
I ended up sending my wife and my kids to the back of the house and the upstairs because I didn't know what was outside. And then I walked outside, my shirt untucked and just in shorts and my pockets hanging out of my shorts and my hands up in the air.
The police, after confirming his identity, asked to see his wife and children to make sure all were safe.
What about your kids, your wife? How were they affected by it?
Well, it was a shock.
Secretary Ashcroft was swatted, and he's one of the lucky ones.
Swatting is when somebody calls 911 and says there's a prowler in my home, please come with a SWAT team. So this is a prank with a really quite dangerous edge.
In 2017, a Wichita police officer who didn't realize a caller had falsely reported a homicide and hostage situation at the home of Andrew Finch mistakenly killed him. Since then, swatting incidents have been on the rise. In May of 2023, the FBI set up a swatting task force to track the number of incidents. More than 600 tracked across the country. And as voting day nears, federal officials are prepping for election personnel to be a target.
We've been preparing for this moment and strengthening our laws to make it a crime to threaten an election official in their line of work, and also working to have strong partnerships with law enforcement.
Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson knows firsthand. She was targeted twice in August of this year.
I was not home, and it was my husband who was home in the middle of the night when he noticed on our cameras police approaching the home. Being former military, he knew how to approach the situation. It was de-escalated, and the officers filed a report and went on their way. But then, lo and behold, not 2 days later, I woke up and walked outside and was heading to work. And there were 3 squad cars, again, outside our home and police approaching me. And I said, I can't believe this is happening again.
And you remember Gabriel Sterling.
It has to stop.
The COO of the Office of Georgia's Secretary of State. He was swatted this past January.
This was a very sophisticated SWAT where they basically had gunfire in the background and said that there was violence going on at the home. They had 14 cars there in like less than 2 minutes.
Was there an investigation launched into finding out who actually swatted you?
As we understand it, the FBI did identify the likely culprits as foreign nationals. It was some Eastern European group that was doing it, and they indicted 2 members of it.
But even if swatting incidents can be traced overseas, they can be difficult to identify and indict. Secretary Benson understands the persistent threat and the unique times we're in.
It's, a horrific reality of election administration in this moment. And everyone who spreads lies or causes lies, or even our foreign adversaries who may be linked to some of these attempts, all of it really amplifies in the heat of this moment and shows why both the work we do is so important, but also there are real risks involved that we have to be aware of.
Risks these officials, along with many election workers, are willing to take as a duty to serve this country and its democratic system.
Election officials are taking these threats very seriously. As Secretary of State Benson said out of Michigan, they're coordinating with both local and federal law enforcement, making sure they identify where election officials live throughout these very key states, right? These swing states in which a lot of folks are going to be watching specifically, and then having safe words, for instance, so that local PD understands and knows that if they show up at a home, for instance, at an election official's home, and they use that safe word, they know, in fact, it is a prank, that someone has been swatted there. And then you talk about Election Day, right? Some of the safety measures they've put into place. They have safety buttons, erecting walls, more barriers, for instance, to protect all these election workers, and then arming election workers with the law to understand the right that they have to be there, if in fact, and what they're doing, if in fact they are confronted. So certainly a lot going into keeping these election workers and officials safe this election. Back to you guys.
Interesting and bizarre times. Yasmin Vasugian, thanks for that. All right, now to some more breaking news we're following tonight. A Kentucky jury has returned a pretrial verdict in the trial of former Louisville police officer Brett Hankinson. This is in connection to the killing of Breonna Taylor. The jury finding him not guilty of violating the civil rights of neighbors during the March 2020 raid. They're still deliberating, though, on whether he violated Breonna Taylor's civil rights. Now, this comes after the jury went into overtime on day 3 of deliberations. They told the judge earlier today they were struggling to come to a unanimous decision, but the judge urged them to continue. Now, a similar situation played out at the federal trial last year, and that ended up in a mistrial. NBC's Adrian Broadus joins me now with more. So, Adrian, walk us through what we've seen play out in court today so far, and do we know what jurors are stuck on?
Well, Stephen, it's been a long day for members of this jury. I want to take you back to yesterday because that's when we had a question from members of the jury on count 1. this is the count that we are still waiting to hear from them on. Yesterday, the jury wanted to know, do we need to know if Breonna Taylor was a living victim when Brett Hankinson fired? Now, the government referred them to their instructions, and so did the defense, and they went back to deliberating. So today, it appears they may be stuck on whether Taylor was alive when Hankinson fired those shots. Why is this important? During closing arguments on Wednesday, members of the defense team called into question whether or not Taylor was still alive when Hankinson fired his round, saying in part, how could he violate Breonna Taylor's civil rights if she wasn't alive? By contrast, prosecutors argued in this case that that former officer acted recklessly, comparing this night in March 2020 to that of a drive-by shooting when he fired blindly through those windows, which were covered with blinds, and that sliding glass door. So tonight we do have a partial verdict. This jury, made up of at least 5 white men, 1 black man, and 6 white women, have found him not guilty on count 2, and that was linked to violating the civil rights of Breonna Taylor's neighbors. Stephen?
And Adrian, we mentioned the mistrial in the federal trial last year. Are we seeing differences in this trial compared to that one?
So one key difference is members of the jury. It's an entirely different jury. But in regards to witness testimony, what we saw in this retrial at the federal level really reflected what we saw before. Now, I do want to underscore that at the state level, Hankinson was acquitted on all of his charges. Stephen?
All right. Adrian Broaddus reporting for us tonight. Adrian, thanks so much. Well, don't go anywhere. We have a whole lot more to come on Stay Tuned Now. Up next, though, a deadly Halloween shooting to tell you about in Orlando. NBC's Jesse Kirsch is on the ground with the latest details. Plus, they are the champions. LA welcomes home its World Series winning Dodgers with a major celebration. Plus, the future of everything for the parents out there. Imagine spending the first few days after having a baby in the lap of luxury. That is not what the parent books tell you about, but that is exactly what some parents are opting for in the age of postpartum hotels. That's coming up later this hour, so stay tuned.
I'm living the life right now.
Normally, I guess people are at home with the baby screaming the whole time and exhausted. And we left after a few days just totally refreshed and feeling really good.
Welcome back. Here are some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. New York City Mayor Eric Adams was in court today as his lawyers fought to dismiss his bribery charges. The judge hasn't made a ruling on that yet, but he did set a date for the mayor's corruption trial, scheduling it for late April of next year. Adams is facing 5 counts total related to allegations that he received luxury gifts and campaign contributions from foreign sources. He has pleaded not guilty to those charges. In Tampa, Florida, a close call at the Hard Rock Casino when 2 remote-controlled explosives were found in bathrooms. Police evacuated the building and later charged a 46-year-old man with planting the explosives. A motive is still unclear as that investigation continues. Also in Florida, a bail bondsman faces human trafficking and racketeering charges. Russell Bruce Moncrief is accused of targeting women in jail, offering bond in exchange for sex. Prosecutors say he even sold women to other buyers and used threats of revoking their bonds to make them cooperate. He now faces up to 125 years in prison. Boeing has a new offer for its labor union workers with a 38% wage increase over 4 years. That's up from the previous offer of 35%. Boeing shares rose today on the hopes that workers will approve this deal and end their 7-week strike. That vote is set for Monday. And people in Arizona could soon have recreational marijuana delivered right to their doors. Starting today, home delivery for recreational users is now legal. Previously, only medical marijuana patients were eligible for that. The state had legalized recreational marijuana back in 2021, and in 2023, sales hit over $1 billion for the first time. Turning now to Orlando, Florida. The mayor there has ordered a curfew for downtown tonight after a deadly shooting during Halloween celebrations. Surveillance video shows packed crowds last night, moments before a gunman opened fire, killing 2 people and hurting at least 7 others. We've learned that 3 of the victims hospitalized were released earlier tonight. The remaining victims were described as being in stable condition. Now, that 17-year-old suspect is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder with a firearm and 6 counts of attempted first-degree murder. NBC's Jesse Kirsch is in Orlando for us tonight. So, Jesse, what do we know about this suspect and any potential connection he may have had to those victims?
Yeah, so at this point, Stephen, we do not have any word on a motive from authorities. We know that the suspect is facing multiple charges, including 2 counts of first-degree murder with a firearm. This is someone who we're told has a criminal history, has previously been arrested for grand theft last year. He is 17 years old, and so although police have identified him and also released video of him from today, we are not naming him because he is a minor. But you can see in that video right there, Stephen, police taking down the suspect. We're told there were around 100 officers in the area because officials had been preparing for large crowds for Halloween. And it's estimated there were 50 to 100,000 people in that area last night, Stephen.
Wow. Well, we mentioned that curfew that's been put in place by the mayor. A difficult time to do it. So many people wanting to get out Halloween weekend. What are they saying about how they're planning to enforce that, Jesse?
Yeah, so we're looking at alcohol sales shutting down in the downtown entertainment district at midnight, and then from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. there's that curfew in place, and that is something that is expected for a week for the time being. Here's part of what we heard from the mayor earlier today.
We want a downtown that is fun and vibrant, but we have experienced lately that brazen criminals are willing to come downtown and shoot and kill innocent victims right in front of our police officers.
So a predicament in this community, and again, it's going to impact how people are able to celebrate this upcoming weekend, Stephen.
Yeah, and Jesse, I know there was another deadly shooting that happened on Halloween night in Denver. What do you know about that one?
Yeah, so what we're told from that one by officials is that there was a house party shooting outside of Denver. 3 people were killed there, and at last check, we had not heard anything about a suspect being identified and apprehended in that incident. So at this point, it appears that authorities are still looking for whoever's responsible for that deadly attack. Stephen.
All right, more to come on that one. Jesse Kirsch, thanks so much. Well, coming up, falling back. Yes, it is that time once again. But with daylight saving time ending, what do we really lose? But first, you got to see this one. This angry bird became a viral sensation after squawking directly into the lens of a traffic camera. This is in New Zealand. That black and yellow feathered bird, known as a myna, the country's transport agency jokes that the bird needs to myna its own business. But if you happen to be suffering from a lead foot when this video was taken driving through there, you probably appreciate that bird's interruption. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back. Today, the U.S. got the final jobs report before Election Day, and it is not that great. But there are a few reasons why that's the case. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung is breaking it all down for us at the big board. Hey, Brian.
Yeah, well, hey there, Stephen. I mean, just quite frankly, this was a very disappointing jobs report, but there's a few reasons for why that number came in so bad. Let me rehash exactly what we're talking about here. First off, that headline number, yeah, pretty shocking. Only 12,000 jobs added in the month of October. Compare that to the previous 12 months of monthly job gains, which were averaging somewhere around 190,000. So this is well below that, and also well below what economists were expecting for this month. They're expecting about 100,000 jobs, which is still below trend. So what was the reason for that? Well, 3 things. 2 of them were hurricanes, Hurricanes Helene and also Milton, that did a lot of damage to Tennessee, North Carolina, and Florida. We know that people obviously were probably out of work during the period which those hurricanes hit, which covered that October period where this survey was done. The 3rd reason is because of a Boeing strike where you had Pacific Northwest workers at the Portland and also Seattle facilities on strike for about 6 weeks now. It's still ongoing. That's over 40,000 workers that weren't working, which also impacted this report as well. The one bright spot was that the unemployment rate did stay the same at 4.1%. That's basically going sideways from the month prior, although it is worth noting that the unemployment rate is nudging up, although a lot of economists say that, unemployment still in the low 4% is still relatively healthy by historical standards. So if we unpack this jobs report to see exactly where the industries were impacted, again, as I mentioned, manufacturing down 46,000. This maps almost one-to-one to the over 40,000 Boeing workers that are on strike. Again, they work in manufacturing plants, so that makes sense why you would see that number. But also take a look at things like construction, up 8,000, and leisure and hospitality, bars and restaurants, contracting by 4,000. This is actually a very interesting one because leisure and hospitality drove most of the job gains post-pandemic. You're now seeing a contraction there, although, again, some of that could be due to the hurricanes that we saw. Another bright spot, though, healthcare. Check this out, adding over 52,000 jobs in the month. That's really interesting and a thread for maybe some other jobs reports to come when it comes to possible silver linings. One last thing I want to point out here is that we get a picture on prices from this report. Again, inflation has been the big story for most Americans, the erosion of your wallet from prices rising. And yes, prices are still rising up in this country by 2.4% on a yearly basis. But check this out. This report tells us that average hourly earnings, how much your income is growing, up by 4%. This figure higher than this figure, and that's good news for the economy. Back to you, Stephen.
An estimated 225,000 people turned Los Angeles into a sea of blue to celebrate the Dodgers World Series win against the New York Yankees. This is Los Dodgers' 8th World Series championship. Still, plenty of fans were eager to savor this experience, calling it a once-in-a-lifetime moment. And it certainly may have felt that way, considering they did not get to celebrate like this when they won back in 2020 because, of course, the pandemic. Plus, in a bittersweet moment, fans also got to honor the memory of the late Dodgers legend Fernando Valenzuela on what would have been his 64th birthday. NBC's Morgan Chesky joins us now from Dodger Stadium with more on this. Well, the crowds are not there in that stadium right now, Morgan. What are the vibes like, though, in L.A.?
Stephen, blue sky, sunshine, about 70 degrees. The crowds are no longer here in Dodger Stadium, but I can still hear the chanting that went through and reverberated this entire historic baseball venue. They came to celebrate the 2020 World Series because, of course, as you mentioned, they didn't get a chance to, but also just soak in this moment, the 2024 World Series. Finally, theirs for the taking, theirs to celebrate. Expectations were so incredibly high at the beginning of this season. And this was a sellout crowd today, Stephen, not to mention the fact that there were still tens of thousands of people that lined that parade route as those double-decker buses brought that team right here to soak in the moment. Of course, two names in particular were chanted throughout this entire stadium. Freddie Freeman, the MVP, of course, and Shohei Ohtani himself. And here's what they had to say about bringing it back home.
I did everything I could to get on this field for you guys. And I'm glad I did because we got a championship now. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I can't wait to run this back next year.
This is so special moment for me. I'm so honored to be here and to be part of this team.
Yeah, you could hear the crowd just welcoming that team here into the stadium. Of course, a bit quieter now, but that confetti that was shot out of the cannons still being grabbed by so many people who made their way onto the field. A little keepsake from this historic year. Going to this World Series, Stephen, of course, the Yankees had the historic edge over the Dodgers. They had won 8 World Series in a head-to-head matchup versus the Dodgers 3. That is now 8-4. They're looking, as you heard them say, run it back next year. And I got to tell you, if all the pieces are still in place, they certainly have an opportunity to do so. Stephen?
Exciting stuff. I'll tell you, Morgan, the vibes here on the East Coast are a bit different than there in L.A. But I know you're a Texas boy. I'm from Dallas myself. The Rangers World Series win last year, if you could compare the vibes between L.A. and Dallas last year.
Yeah, it's so interesting to hear you say that because, not by design, but I was in Dallas when the Rangers brought it home, and now here we are in L.A. a lot of history here. And so it was really striking for me to be seated up in the stadium today and to look out and see it entirely packed with people, all trying to kind of soak in that moment, hold on to that magic as best we could. There was a player that you could barely hear above the roar here who said it best, and he said, "This is not our World Series. This is everyone's World Series. We're not the only champions. Everyone here is a World Series champion." And you can see that on people's faces, young and old, walking through the concourses here, just even after the event had ended, everyone just continuing to cheer on the team. I think in Texas, there's just certainly that celebration was there, but you can see kind of the history going from LA even back to Brooklyn, Stephen, about what this team means to this fan base and how excited they are to finally have a World Series with no asterisks like the 2021 had to celebrate and really call their own. Stephen?
Yeah, that enthusiasm really comes through. Such a cool shot. A bit surreal to see you there in an empty stadium there, Morgan. A great shot from you. Thanks so much for that report, Morgan Chesky. All right, still ahead, on the ground in Spain, as that country is trying to wrap its head around some catastrophic flooding, why so many people say they are just not getting the help they so desperately need. Welcome back. Let's take a quick look around the world. North Korea is bragging about a new intercontinental ballistic missile, which state media says has the capability to strike anywhere in the U.S. Yesterday's launch sparked quick condemnation. South Korea and U.S. officials agreed to, quote, take strong and varied response measures. This missile launched high into space before splashing down between Japan and Russia, where the Pentagon estimates that around 10,000 North Korean soldiers have deployed to. In the Netherlands, a heist straight out of a movie. Thieves used explosives to break into a Dutch art gallery. Police say their intention was to steal 4 Andy Warhol prints, but only managed to get away with 2. The robbery left the gallery in ruins, though, just weeks before the works were set to appear at an Amsterdam art fair. Police are appealing to witnesses for any information. A massive drug bust in Canada, where police dismantled the country's largest drug super lab, seizing more than 100 pounds of fentanyl, 860 pounds of meth, and nearly 90 loaded firearms. Officers also found small explosives, body armor, among $500,000 Canadian dollars. And finally to Peru, where police traded in their uniforms for some Halloween costumes. Yesterday in the capital city of Lima, 2 officers dressed up, as you see them there, Wolverine and Deadpool, which appeared to give them the upper hand during a drug bust. The team of police officers stormed a building where they discovered 54 bags of cocaine and 850 packets of coca-based paste. 4 people were arrested during that raid. Well, the U.S. State Department is calling the latest Israeli attack on Gaza, quote, a horrifying incident. Palestinian officials say today's strike on a residential building killed at least 55 people. Meanwhile, Israeli fighter jets struck near Beirut today. All of this as diplomatic efforts to curb fighting seem to be going nowhere fast. NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley has more.
It was another loud and very violent night here in Beirut. All night long, we heard bombardments, quite a few of them hitting right here in the southern Beirut neighborhood of Dahia, just outside of the city. Now, this has been the focus of Israel's expanded attacks against Hezbollah here in Lebanon for the past several weeks. But now there was a couple of days-long reprieve here in Beirut, and they've started again. This was one of the most intense hits that we've been hearing for the past several weeks. Now, according to the Lebanese government, they said that at least 30 people had been killed, about 183 people have been injured just over the past 24 hours all over the country. Quite a few of these strikes have been targeting the eastern region of Baalbek. Now, this is in the Bekaa Valley, and this is where quite a few thousands of people were forced to leave their homes after Israel warned that they were going to be striking Hezbollah targets there. And the Israelis said that they had received about 55 projectiles fired from here in Lebanon at Israel. So this was a real uptick that we've been seeing in this long-going fight between Hezbollah and Israel. Now, at the same time, this is all coming against the background of a renewed flurry of diplomacy. We just saw 2 senior officials from the United States in just the past couple of days visiting Israel, Amos Hochstein and Brett McGurk. Now, Reuters reported that Amos Hochstein had offered and tried to convince the Lebanese Prime Minister, Najib Mikati, to try to, announce some sort of peace deal with the Israelis unilaterally without agreement from Hezbollah. Now, we just heard from Amos Hochstein, and this is a senior envoy from the Biden administration. He denied that that was the case. And this is despite the fact that we've been hearing over the past several days that there's been some progress towards some kind of peace deal between Hezbollah and the Israelis. Now, so far, it looks as though we haven't actually seen that coming to any sort of success. Hezbollah is backed by Iran, like Hamas in the Gaza Strip. And now we've been hearing from Iranian state media and from senior officials that the Iranians do intend to fire back at the Israelis after the Israelis fired at the Iranians in just the past couple of weeks. So that really brings the whole region to the brink once again, and we've been seeing this time and time again over the past several months, to a region-wide war. This is something that everybody in the Middle East is truly dreading, and diplomats are trying their best to try to avoid this worst-case scenario.
Matt Bradley reporting for us tonight. Meanwhile, in Spain, that catastrophic flooding has now killed more than 200 people. Rescue teams are having a hard time getting to the most devastated areas, and now the forecasts are saying there's even more rain on the way. Adam Parsons from Sky News reports.
Well, here in Catalonia, the damage is absolutely immense. If you look around me here, you see these everywhere, these piles of pancake destroyed cars. But the focus of a lot of attention here is this area. That is the canal in the middle of town. And what locals have told us is that already a number of bodies have been pulled from that. But they say that they've been told by the police that they couldn't get all of the victims out of that they need more equipment, and that the police will be returning to take more bodies out of that. Now, there are emergency services here, but there aren't that many of them. You see one just going past us there, that's civil protection. You've seen one police car. But lots of people we've spoken to have reflected on the fact that they're not getting help from police, military, that they're having to do everything themselves. They're coming in with big vehicles, with tractors. We've seen a farmer a couple of streets away pulling rubble and debris away. We've seen builders coming with their building equipment to try and clear up this town. And when we talk about a clear up, this is about trying to get this area functional again. It doesn't have utilities, doesn't have internet, water, electricity. When I spoke to one man over there, he said we don't even have food because all the supermarkets have been robbed.
Tonight, in The Future of Everything, reimagining parents' first few days with a newborn. Think relaxing, rejuvenating, maybe even luxurious? That is certainly hard to believe, and it is not what those parenting books have to say. But there's now a growing trend of postnatal retreats. NBC News Daily anchor Morgan Radford explains.
This is our gorgeous room right on Central Park.
Luxury, located in the incredibly stunning 5-star hotel.
Relaxation, get this life-changing massage.
And a good night's sleep. These aren't the words most new parents would use to describe the newborn baby phase. But now, a new trend is changing all that. Called postnatal retreats. They're high-end getaways for new parents, complete with fine dining, scalp massages, and on-site nurses 24/7 to look after parents and baby.
Immediately after giving birth to Jude, we checked into a postnatal retreat.
Some going viral online, with one New York retreat getting 1.5 million views on TikTok.
When we got here, they greeted us with like a foot massage.
Here at Sanu Postpartum Hotel in Virginia, Elisa and Scott Parker booked a room 12 weeks ago when their baby Tyler was born.
I'm living the life right now.
Normally, I guess people are at home with the baby screaming the whole time and exhausted, and we left after a few days just totally refreshed and feeling really good.
It's one of at least 6 hotels from different companies across the country offering a pampered parenting experience, including a nursery that's monitored 24/7 with cameras and nurses. It's the type of rejuvenation that's been the norm for years outside of the U.S., in countries like South Korea and Singapore.
My parents talk about this all the time in Korea, and they're bringing it here to the U.S., so we were like, okay, let's try it out.
How was it?
It was awesome. The hospitality was amazing. The food was amazing. Sometimes we were sleeping 8 or 9 hours a night because he would go to the nursery and they would take care of him.
8 or 9 hours a night of sleep right after you give birth?
I know. Yeah.
That's like winning the lottery.
Yeah, it was
Literally,
amazing.
it was
amazing.
really nice.
How do you think your new parenthood experience would have been different if you'd gone straight home from the hospital?
I don't think we ever would have had that break. We would have been exhausted at the hospital and exhausted at home. By the time we left here after we did 5 nights, we both felt super recharged.
An eye-opening experience that, as a new mom myself, I had to try out.
So I just put this on? Yes. Okay. This is amazing. I can't even imagine, like, if I had had something like this hours after giving birth. My mom friends would not even believe me if I told them something like this existed. A foot bath? This is so much luxury. I remember right after I gave birth, the nurses were like, pay attention because my feet were like super swollen.
Yes. Service that comes at a price. Some hotels charging as much as $1,000 a night depending on the length of stay. For Sanu founder and chief executive officer Julia Kim, who started the company after her second child was born, it's an investment in peace of mind.
Being in your postpartum period means that you're still recovering from a major health event. You know, what if you got a C-section? And what if you had tearing? I mean, you're in a significant amount of pain. And so we're here to take over all of that. We're non-judgmental. We want to be compassionate, give you all of the evidence-backed strategies. There's no better comfort than feeling like we're prepared on your behalf.
The U.S. has the highest maternal mortality rate of any high-income country in the world. 2/3 of those deaths occurring within the first year after birth, which means this is a treat that some maternal health experts argue should be more accessible, and one the Parker family says was worth every penny.
For your friends who are like, I didn't even know this existed, or friends who have said, wait a minute, I just wouldn't pay that amount of money. I mean, what do you say about your decision to come here?
I don't think you could put a price on the feeling we had leaving here. We really felt ready and recharged and ready to be parents at home.
Morgan Radford, NBC News.
That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Stephen Romo. We'll see you back here Monday, but until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.